we're doing this for 20 years next year. So we sold our first rug in November 2006. For us, the key to be the front runners with design and style and trends, and gone are the days where your options were a plain wool rug or, God forbid, a carpet remnant. We've come a long way from there.
Welcome to Style Stories, brought to you by Easy Living Interiors, helping you transform your space and create the feeling of home. Hello and welcome to Style Stories. Today's guest is Clare Vallely, co-founder of Kukoon Rugs, one of Ireland's most exciting and fast-growing rug brands. Kukoon began with a simple idea. Clare and her brother Paul spotted an opportunity to do something different with their dad's collection of rugs, and they took a chance. From those early days on eBay, the business has grown steadily into a well-loved brand with a huge customer base. Standout designs and a presence in homes across Ireland, Northern Ireland and beyond. Clare's story is one of creativity, smart thinking and making the most of a great idea. We're so happy to have her here. So welcome, Clare.
Thanks very much, Laura. I'm
Thank
very
you.
happy to be here.
Excited to have you. And it's worth noting, we're a year into our partnership next weekend.
Yes.
So the June bank holiday weekend, that will mark when we both collectively took a chance, brought Kukoon Rugs into Easy Living Interiors. So it's really exciting to come full circle in that way and see where the partnership has taken us and where it can go into the future.
No, absolutely. I can't believe it's been a year. It's been a very, very quick year, and I think it's gone better than certainly we could have ever imagined. And we're so excited for the next steps. I think there's an awful lot more we can do. It's been a great partnership so far.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I think why it really makes sense and why it's a match in interiors heaven is because our brand identities, our brand values, they really are shared. You guys are family owned. Obviously, you and Paul together kind of took your dad's, and there was a real business minded kind of nature to your family, and you guys took that and created something really amazing. But also what's really important about Kukoon is it's customer centric. The customer will always come first. And also we're the same, and you're design led. You're always changing things up and doing really exciting designs, and it's not staying the same. It's, you know, you guys take chances, like this rug we have here, gorgeous print, machine-washable. So yes. You guys your designs are interesting and they add something different for the customer. So there's lots of comparisons between the two of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever we first went to look for a retail partner, like we were quite intentional about the partner we wanted to be with, and you know, obviously there's quite a few different options in Ireland, and it really was Easy Living that we wanted to be with, because you could recognise that straight away from the in-store experience. So before we ever really reached out or made contact, we were going around the store going, there's a great vibe here. You just know there's a family environment. You know, the staff are so pleasant and helpful, and you could tell the style. You could tell the sort of care that goes into the product and the thoughtfulness. And then when we went and done a bit of research and seen actually, you know, it's a family company too, very similar values, as you say, customer at the core of everything we do. The vibe just was there from the start.
And when you say feeling is such a word in our business, and we always say the feeling of home. And just to speak on the family story, you know, our business started with one small store in Cork on Blarney Street in 1988, and it was James and Caroline White, and they set up their store. But Caroline really is that beating heart in the design presence of our company, you know, and her thing was always bringing something exciting to the market, because I feel like Irish interiors, we've come a long way in the last maybe 30 to 40 years, and people they're thinking more about what they can do with their homes instead of it just being like, it just does the work. It's how can it do the work, but it can also be a space that you feel really happy in, and you know, it reflects your style. So that was always kind of Caroline's vision for the company. And as we've grown, you know, there's been huge ambition. Gavin came on board and he's massively expanded the company, and we've opened, well, we're at 22 stores now, which is amazing. But I'm glad that you've noticed the family sense to the business, because they're very much involved, the same as you and Paul. And it's just amazing that they've kind of done something so amazing with the vision that they had. Again, very similar to you and Paul, kind of taking an idea and making it into something really successful and impressive. So congratulations.
Thanks very much. I know, and I'm sure that you can absolutely tell that about a business. You know, I do believe that even whenever it's at a large scale, and as you said, 22 stores, and a very different business to the business that the guys started, the family value still carries through. And I think it's the same for Kukoon.
Totally.
It's something that we would get an awful lot of feedback, even when we're recruiting. People say, like, they like the family atmosphere. So from the customer point of view, from staff point of view, I think it means something to a lot of people that they're buying from a business that has a family background. There's a assumption there of a little bit more care about the customer, care about staff, care about the product. And maybe it is an assumption, but I've certainly found it to be true in our partnership.
Yeah.
And I think it's why it works so well. There's a mutual trust as well.
Yeah.
I think both companies want it to work. They want to present the best possible solution to the customer.
Yeah.
So from the product selection to the styling, there's a synergy there that we'll both do whatever it takes to make sure the customer has the best experience.
And also you guys are very similar to us in the way that you're into the details. And when you do something, you do it to 110%. Even your Kukoon stands, when we saw them coming into our stores, we were like, they're so gorgeous and they just make sense. And even like the rollout, it just felt so natural the way it happened, and they fit perfectly into our store, and your rugs perfectly complement the furniture. So it never felt, I guess, like either side had to do more of the work. It naturally happened. So yeah, it's really exciting, and I'll never forget the Bell Garage Retail Park opening day. And Louise came down, and she was doing her live, and she was, talking to the customers, and people were really excited to come in and meet Louise as well. And Louise, I know we kind of sometimes might call her the face of Kukoon, because herself and Kate obviously as well are so on social media, and they're really doing amazing work to give you guys such a strong brand identity. But customers were coming in and they were like, oh my God, Louise, it's great to meet you, which was really nice to see as well.
We'd been doing the Ideal Home Show for quite a few years, and one of the main things we're always asked, when are you going to open a store in Dublin, in Cork? And we were constantly being asked this, and it wasn't our longer term plan, but actually opening a store especially in Dublin, just for rugs, it was hard to find the right location, hard to find the right fit, and we began to explore that option a little bit more. It sits perfectly with a furniture retailer, because quite often they're bought at the same time. It's something that the customers are looking for at the same point in their lives, and that's really why we started to explore that option. And it has been a great synergy, and like Louise and Kate have found that too, to have that touch point with the customer, to have even the opportunity to come in and see the rug styled in situ has been really helpful for our customers, because there's always been that little bit of a disconnect maybe in terms of they've loved the rug online, it's the rug they want to buy, but they just need to see it. Yeah. And you can see it hanging even in our own stores, but again, there's just something extra special about coming in and seeing it styled with furniture. Yeah. You can really get a sense whether that's the right rug for you or not.
Yeah, 100%. And our visual merchandising team, they're so talented, headed up by Amy Donovan. They're just so talented in what they do. They create full room sets. It's not just a sofa, it's the full lifestyle, so your rugs perfectly complement that. And just down to the product development that you guys do, the machine-washable rugs, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's been definitely the most exciting sort of product development piece that in the 20 years we've been doing this that I've experienced, and I am absolutely in love with the collections now. I'm probably reinvigorated. Rugs for a long time have been probably quite archaic, to be truthful about it. I nearly would put them into the at times kind of curtain category, where they were a little bit of a functional piece. They were usually a big money outlay for people. They were a really thought out piece, because they were normally wool, maybe it could have been €400 or €500. They were just, it was a slow moving category. It's not now. It has become much closer aligned to fashion and to people's identities. And the washable piece has opened up a whole new avenue for us. And that really came along with innovation in the product. It's something that whenever we seen it become available with our partners, we were like, we absolutely have to take it to market, and we have to take it to market first. Like, we have to be the ones to introduce this to customers, because we know customers trust us with the product. They know that we will never default in quality, and if we say this product is good, they trust us, and we felt it. Whenever we seen washable products maybe 10 years ago, but they were always a polyester, horrible feel. And I love the concept of washable, even if you never intend to put it in a washing machine.
The option's there.
It's the option's there. If the worst happens and you have to put it in the machine, you can. But it's easy care. So if something spills on it, you can go at that with a strong cleaner or with a cloth or the scrubbing brush. You can hose them if you need to. They're that resilient. No fears at all. So for busy families, people with kids, with dogs, people who love the outdoors, you don't have to sacrifice style for functionality.
And that's it. People, I think, kind of assume, you know, oh, I have a really busy family and I've got dogs and sticky hands and ice cream fingers and all of that. But you can have both. Get yourself a sofa that can do both. Get yourself a rug that can do both. We do sofa ranges that are aqua clean. So any spillages, any stains, you can just pour water on and then you wipe it and the stain's gone. So there's a lot of innovation now in the industry, and it's amazing to see. But I think it's really important, like you say, it's important to be ahead of it and be the leaders in it and bring new exciting things to the market. And you guys do it really well, and it's something that we like to do as well. So many reasons for us to have a partnership, as we can all tell, I'd say, at this stage. So that will nicely segue us into our introductory questions, but we've covered a lot of ground. So Kukoon has grown into one of Ireland's leading rug brands, and it all began with you and your brother Paul listing your dad's surplus rug stock on eBay. Can you share how those early beginnings shaped the foundations of your business?
Yeah, so it's funny now when I look back in terms, I think you learn so many lessons in hindsight. You never know you're learning them as you're going through the process. And our dad done markets. So, and for a long time, I suppose we didn't really like to say that because, you know, you didn't feel it was a good story or a story that people would really be interested in. And we've actually learned over the last 5-6 years in particular that people love that. They love the fact that from we were small children, we were going to the markets with our dad, and that's what he sold. He sold rugs in the market. My mum and dad had a shop in Newry, a homeware store actually. It was quite short-lived. It just came along at a bad time. I think it was the early 90s, and it didn't work out for them, and he then started into the markets. And prior to that, our dad had been in business with his brother in an auto parts business. So retail was all we knew. Retail is what was talked in the house at the dinner table. Again, you don't know it when you're living through it, but from a small child, you're listening to these conversations about his experiences during the day and customers that he met. And I wouldn't say that he was a true homewares man. He wasn't. Right. That was my mum. Mum loved homewares. She was the person done the house up and went to interior shops and loved all of that. Daddy loved retail and he loved customers. And I'd say he was ahead of his time in a sense in that. And I remember this very clearly from childhood and being in the markets with him. He was driven by finding the customer what they wanted. Yes. He wasn't just really trying to sell something. He really wasn't interested in that because he knew they were just going to bring it back the following week if they took it home and it didn't work. So that lesson was ingrained in us from early on. He would take the time with the customer. Like he would really go through all the rugs that we had until they found the right one. And I can remember as a child, people who were coming along at that point with cushions, and it would have been more wallpaper back then, wallpaper samples and all, that they were trying to find rugs to match. And I loved that. Like I actually really loved from I was 10, 12 years old, digging through the piles and pulling them out. And, you know, the women loved that too. Yeah. Like it was a personal experience. And Daddy was very good at instilling that knowledge in us that you had to have a choice. You know, people knew they were coming to buy something from you, yes, and your job wasn't just to sell something. Your job was to display the wonderful choice that you had. And he put a lot of time and effort into sourcing rugs. Like he would have sourced them mostly from local wholesalers. But I used to remember we had a small Almira car, and he used to go around a couple of different wholesalers so he could get a good selection. And that car would be rammed full, and we would be squeezed in as small children surrounded by rugs. And again, you don't realise you're learning it at the time. But looking back, that's where our real customer focus came from. I think it just dovetailed nicely that I then took on a real passion for interiors as a complete side. I actually have a couple of scrapbooks at home that I thought I didn't keep, and then I managed to find them in the roof space a couple of years ago. They're big A3, if you remember from childhood, the big scrapbooks you would have had for school or for art projects, and it's absolutely filled with magazine cutouts of home interiors. And I laugh at some of them now, like the hack of some of them, to be honest with you, but at the time I loved them enough to put them in a scrapbook. And thankfully there's a couple of front
You were making mood boards though.
I was making mood boards, unbeknownst to me. I have a couple of front covers magazines, so I have the date, and they're from late 1999 and into the 2000s. And when I worked that back, I was 13 and 14. Wow. And again, like it was nothing to me. I've just always loved homes, always have. These were the early days of my version of Pinterest. I was putting together what my future dream home was going to look like. That's so special
to have though. And isn't it funny that like 13-year-old you wouldn't know the journey that you were going to go on and where that was going to take you? But I do find that people who are in interiors, there's a natural passion and there's a natural love and there's a reason. And I think we can all kind of think and relate to moments growing up. Oh, it all makes a lot of sense now. Like I take mad notions that I was like doing a bedroom makeover and I'd be moving, my bedroom was upstairs in my parents' house, and they'd hear me moving all the furniture upstairs and they'd be like, would you ever stop moving the furniture? Like, leave it alone. But it's like that. There's always those moments that you can look back on. And I think it's so special you have those scrapbooks to keep. And
I know, and it's like that memory you have. I really look at them with great fondness now, you know, and something probably I wouldn't have admitted to having because it's probably wasn't the coolest thing to be into when you're 13 or 14.
Yeah, but look at you now.
But that was my passion and it still is. And back to even the point with our dad in the market life was really hard. Like that was up at 5 and he was first there, last away. So he was market trader. So we would have been up at 5 in the morning. You wouldn't have been home till late. This would have been in all weather.
Yeah.
You could have been setting the stall up in freezing cold, rain. Like he was belligerent about being there in case a customer would come along and expecting you to be there and you weren't there.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't come back to you again. So it was even those lessons that he taught us around reliability to the customer and the customer experience and the customer trusting you. And however, it was a really tough life. And I can remember very clearly both me and Paul saying, we're never going to do this. we're not selling rugs. We're not doing markets. This is not the life for us. You know, we're way off to be professionals of some sort or another. And, you know, I think that's probably just the teenage kickback, the teenage kind of,
this is, bit of angst that
this is no life this is no life for me. And I'm glad we had that experience. Unfortunately, our dad's no longer with us. He passed away of cancer in 2016. So he didn't really get to see the business fly, but he got to see the earlier years of it. And he was very proud of the part he had played in that. And again, with our mum too. Our mum's worked with us since 2009, so in the very early stages of the business. And she's been a huge part, a huge driving force in everything we've done. So those early years were very formative.
And I think something that's really clear with you guys is work ethic, as well as everything else that's gone into your business. I was reading when you guys kind of started getting Kukoon, I suppose, to what it is now, like you were doing 70-hour weeks to make it happen. What do you think drove that on? Was it the vision of what was to come, or was it just that those formative years of it's all that you knew, I suppose?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you and say in the early years we had a big vision, and we always knew Kukoon was going to look like what it does now. We didn't. It was all we knew, in truth. And we were excited. You know, I was 19. I was just starting uni and really desperately wanted to quit. Was advised otherwise by, I'd say, doubtful parents who were sceptical that we were ever really going to make anything of it. But I did manage to stay on and graduate, but worked alongside Paul on this the whole way through. Paul had just finished uni, and the two of us, we knew we wanted to do something together. Retail is what we knew. I had a real love, so I think I was always pushing us towards rugs, you know. That became just a natural fit because that was the product Daddy was selling at the time in the markets. It's the product we knew. We were very comfortable with rugs because that's what we'd sold since we were children. Like we could have talked night and day about sizes. We could have flipped between sort of centimetres and inches and into metres for people. We could have talked about colours. We were very natural at that. There wasn't a great vision, but we were excited to do it. And we talked about the 78-hour weeks, and I think people imagine, oh God, that must have been awful. And it wasn't. It was exciting. And nearly any business owner will talk about those early days. You can never replicate them. They live in an isolated time, and the business gets bigger. You start to employ people, and it changes. It ultimately gets better for most people, and for us too, it did. But there was something special about those early days and making something out of nothing. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. And like that, it's great to see a success story where the work has gone into it. You know, it's not an overnight thing. The work has gone in and the dedication is there. So I'm sure it must be amazing for you and Paul to kind of sit and look back at that, but then also see what you've created. And, you know, again, the people you've brought on and the passion that exists in your guys' team. It must be amazing to have people that share that vision and you can kind of see it flourish now. So you must feel really proud. I hope you do anyway, because you should be.
Hugely proud. And we have a wonderful team. You know, we settled after quite a few years of discussions about, you know, what do you hire? Do you hire for, you know, ability or attitude? And obviously it has to be both. You can't hire somebody for a job if they haven't got the ability for it. But for us, it's attitude first, always. And we have turned people away from job roles that maybe on paper or technically they were better able to do than somebody else. But we've seen in those people probably a similar attitude. And for better or worse, whenever I really step back and look at our team in Kukoon, there's a lot of similarities between the people. They're all very different and very different interests and all, but there's a common thread of just wanting to do the right thing, just wanting to get the job done, no matter what it takes. And we've had a lot of people move into like side roles, come in with one particular job role and then step into another department and then progress into another department maybe. And it's been lovely to see that, you know, sort of journey that people have taken through the company and their commitment to Kukoon and our commitment to them. And, you know, we're all in it together. There's a real sense of that. We all sit together in the same offices. You know, we take breaks together, lunches together, we travel together to events and all. And
the travel, that's where you really bond.
Yeah.
Do you know, if Emma Murphy was here, who I know you know very well, the buying trips, you know, the stories of the buying trips, and you're catching however many flights and you've got your connecting flight and, you know, you're staying in whatever hotel is near to the show and you're eating whatever's available.
Whenever you see somebody do the snort when they wake up on the flight, and that's all buyers are broke, so they are. You can leave it all at the door at that point. And you sometimes you need those moments with people, you know, to really build the relationships. And a lot of our team have been with us for 10, 12 years and stuff. So it's, you know, it's testament just to how good the team is, how good the company is, that people are sticking with us for so long.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, like even ourselves, we're the same. It's internal promotion, we grow our people move across. It's not about me, but you know, I started in online sales, so there is a real sense of synergy there as well, of growing people and believing in people that believe in you and your business. So that's amazing. So once the rugs began selling online, there must have been a moment when it came clear that this was something that was really going to take off. What gave you the confidence to invest in your first full container of stock?
We started in 2007. We were selling on eBay actually at the start, and then we had our first website in 2008. So everything was online. We didn't open our first store to 2013. We were putting a lot of effort into photography, into listings, into finding the right rugs, and we were doing a lot of this with local wholesalers, and we were selling out really quickly. Our people would be saying, God, I love it, but you have it in this size or this size, and we didn't. And it became really clear, you know, there's a real want. You know, we're beginning to build a customer base here, and they're coming to us asking for things that we just didn't have. Or, you know, we'd photograph and list something that sold out really quickly. It was maybe sold in 2 or 3 weeks, completely gone. And all that work had been put in to photograph it and do the descriptions for it. And we said we needed a different strategy here. So that's when we decided to go direct to manufacturers and to eventually start designing the rugs ourselves, so as we'd have a lot more control over the supply line. And, you know, if something was really selling well, we could quickly get it back in stock to meet that demand. Or, you know, if people were asking for it in bigger sizes, we could provide that. So it was a leap of faith, definitely. We done it quite early on. We ordered our first container in early 2008. So we were only about 18 months into the business, and we went to a trade show in Germany, and so I was probably about 21 at the time, and Paul a few years older, and we were really naive. So if you put your mind back to the time when business cards, so we're moved well past that now, this wouldn't be an issue in today's world, but business cards is how everything was done. So we were going on to stands, and you're dealing with international suppliers, so there's quite often a communication buyer, and they were asking for your business cards, so they'd have all the details, and you're like, nope, don't have those. And very immediately they're like, oh, these are newbies. So they are. And we met a couple of local wholesalers as well who had tried to put us off. You know, we'd been good customers of theirs. They didn't want us going direct. So we were given all the scare stories around minimum order quantities and just how hard it was to deal with factories. And we just said, you know, this is what we need to do from the customer point of view. We're never going to make this work until we take this step. So it was a strategic decision and a bit of a leap of faith. And it's paid dividends. We never look back.
Never. I was just going to say, you'll never look back.
Never look back. No.
Your journey from eBay to shipping over 10,000 rugs a week is a huge leap and a very inspiring story. What were some of the most pivotal milestones that helped Kukoon evolve along the way?
Probably the most pivotal ones, really, like outside of the launch of our own first website, was starting to design the rugs ourselves. You know, that was a big pivotal moment where we realised, oh wow, we can be really responsive in the market. So people were coming and saying, I love this design, but I'd love it in this colour, or, you know, really love that colour, but actually I want it in a geometric or something. And we were able to respond to that. We were able to design the perfect rugs that enough people were wanting. So we started that journey in 2013, and again, we've never altered from it. You know, we still design all of our own rugs to this day. So it's been a fantastic journey from us from the design point of view. Opening our own stores, that was a fantastic memory and moment as well. But it led us to realise just how important in-store experiences are. And again, it led us to the partnership with you guys, with Easy Living, to say, like, customers, you know, people say, you know, retail's dead. Retail stores are not dead. Very, very far from it.
Totally.
I think there's a new future coming. You know, there's a reimagined future of how we make retail work.
Yeah.
But people still want that experience, and they still want to come in store and feel it and talk to people and get advice and all.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge part of the journey as well, was that unlock. In the early days, I think we would have said, no, never in store. We'll be on, that's the future. You know, it's online only. We started online. Why would we ever open a store? That feels like a step back. And we have totally, over the last 10 years, a total 360 on that. And for us, it's all about how we build the omni-channel, as they call it,
Totally, yeah.
model where you can have both, and customers can access you at multiple touch points. So.
And as well, when you have that in-store and on-store kind of balance, your customer can come in and they can see it on a Saturday, and then they can go home, and maybe that evening or the next day, then they're like, okay, I'm buying it, and they can then buy it online. So you're meeting the customer where they want to see you, which is really important. And I do think as well, just to touch on retail, like, I think maybe prior to COVID, I think everything had kind of gone online, and then I think COVID hit, and we really missed that connection and that ability. I remember going to Tesco was my night out, do you know? And it's like, you really got that value in retail. And I remember Dunn's, they could sell clothing because they were an essential retailer, so you could buy your clothes in person. It was so exciting. I was like, I don't want ASOS. I want to go in and feel it and touch it. So I think retail has really just started to pick up again since COVID. And our business, even we a lot of our growth kind of happened in COVID. Our online business really, it kind of changed the game for us as well. And then our stores reopened, and it was amazing to welcome our customers back with not open arms, because we had masks and social distancing. But I think, like you say, the customer wants to feel and touch and see, and really kind of, you know, see the product in action. Is kind of how I like to say it.
No, absolutely. And I think it's like anything, it's only really when it's taken away from you, you realise how valuable it is to you. And I think we have to maybe reimagine it a bit. You know, it's great to see you guys today are doing an event, because I think that's a lot more of what retail needs to be, is a little bit experiential. So obviously there's to come in, touch and feel it and talk to people, but I think there's a lot to be said for that community aspect and people coming together. So, you know, you're going to get a room here tonight of interior lovers. You can't beat that. You know, there's no online forum that will ever give you the same feeling as sitting in a room talking with a like-minded individual about a topic that you're passionate about. And I think that's where retail needs to go. You know, I think it needs to be an awful lot more of that. You know, how can you give customers an experience coming in that they will never get online? And a lot of that's to do with people, and it's to do with the connection that you'll build, the advice that they can get, you know, the common sort of interests that you share and stuff. So you guys are doing an excellent job with it, and I think sort of spearheading that in the industry a bit. You know, there's a lot of people are still holding on to the old ways of retail, and I think that's where it maybe is a little bit dangerous. But no, I think there's great opportunities in retail environments. Yeah,
you kind of have to do things differently, and we're always thinking that way. And our company, you know, we're always open to trying something, because, I mean, what's the worst that can happen, you know?
Absolutely.
Working so closely with your brother Paul, how do you divide roles and make decisions as co-founders?
We're lucky in that we've always worked together, really. So those formative years growing up in the markets, we were working together. Even our part-time jobs, there's 4 years between us, but in our part-time jobs quite often we're aligned. We both worked in B&Q for a spell. We both worked in Sainsbury's for a spell. So we've had a lot of experience working together. There was only the two of us growing up, so there was never really a sibling rivalry much. You know, oldest, youngest boy, girl, like we just didn't have a real competitive thing with each other, which I think helps, having seen other sort of sibling businesses. I think the main thing is we're very lucky in that we both have really different skill sets. So Paul is absolutely driven by the operations of the business, the finance and nuts and the bolts. You know, how do we get this product in and get it out, you know, in the right timelines, the bottom line, the financials, how do we make the cash flow end of it work, you know, all of that. You know, he absolutely loves the customer facing side of it as well, actually, the customer service piece and all, but he really drives the engine, you know, like and how Kukoon works and how it continues to work and how we continue to satisfy customers. I adore the product, you know, and that's really what gets me going. So it is, and all the new trends, the new colours, the new qualities. And then the marketing side as well, the campaign end of it, and how we reach the customer and how we get the Kukoon brand out there and our message and who we are to the customer. So we're both operating in very different sides of the business. We're talking daily, and we have many disagreements. You know, we're down now probably to a good argument a week. It would have been an argument a day at a point. So there's plenty of conflict between us, but it's good. It's a challenging conflict.
Yeah,
you know,
and I imagine you challenge each other, and you don't always need a people pleaser in your life. You need someone who will kind of tell you how it is and make you kind of look at things in a different perspective. So it's good that you guys, and again, having that shared experience of the markets together and kind of, you know, getting that kind of entrepreneurial spirit from a young age. I'm sure like you already had gone through really long days and all of that together. So, I mean, once you have that shared work ethic, that same spirit and that same vision, then...
And that's a big piece. We're working towards the same vision. We're totally aligned, and thankfully always have been, on what the bigger piece is and where we want to go and where we want to take Kukoon. And we trust each other. So while we may be looking over the table sometimes going, I wouldn't do it that way, and I think I'd do that a wee bit differently, so I would. At the end of the day, you're like, right, but go on, sure, it's your department, that's your, you know. So there's commentary and there's feedback, plenty of feedback
and notes.
Yeah, but there's a good common alignment there and a good trust in each other's skill sets and abilities. And we're doing this for 20 years next year. So we sold our first rug in November 2006.
That's exciting. I was just thinking a big anniversary is coming for you.
Yeah, we'll be having a big celebration for that. But we've matured a lot. We've become very different people. You know, we've had our own families. Life's changed a lot for us. We've had a lot of hurdles and traumas and stuff to deal with. And we're still here, still working together. So I'm very confident that, you know, that'll always be the case no matter what comes at us.
I was just going to make a pun. I was going to say, through it all, Kukoon keeps you grounded.
I like it. You may be seeing that in social soon.
Hello, Louise and Kate. Write it down. Kukoon has always been about more than rugs. It's about great design, quality, value for money, whilst keeping customer satisfaction at the forefront. What are the key principles that guide the business today? Or what would you say your key words are, your key terms?
Yeah, it's customer first. Customers, North Star, always has been. And I think it's one of the things we're very good at, actually. We're not afraid, very like easy living, actually. We're not afraid to put a lot of investment into processes and product and lots of different things that, you know, on the balance sheet you might look at it and go, is that a sensible decision? But we're looking 2 or 3 years down the line, and we know it's the right decision for the customer, for their ultimate experience with Kukoon. And that's always been the guiding light for us, is if it's the right thing for the customer, if there's value add in it for the customer, then we'll do it. Affordability actually is another driving one. So we've always seen ourselves as the company that provide rugs that you really love at a price you can actually afford, because rugs have traditionally been an expensive purchase for a lot of people, and there's multiple different reasons for that. But we've been able to take great design, great qualities, great style, and actually bring it to the market in a price point that they can afford. And we've debated that lots over the years. You know, should we go up through the price point? Should we be trying to attract a customer who wants to pay more and all? And the truth is, no, this is what we're good at, you know. And I actually think the market's coming down a bit, because, as I said, rugs are beginning to come more into a fashion. You know, people are in their homes in general wanting to show their personality. Like, it's not always now about, you know, what the biggest sort of trendsetter or what they're doing. Like, people are happy to do their own thing and to put their own style and their own stamp on it. And with that comes maybe more of a want for change. And that drives sometimes the price down a little bit, because people are like, well, you know, I'm probably going to want to change it. Yes, it might last for 10 or 15 years, but I probably am going to be sick looking at it in 3 or 4 years, and I'm going to want to change it. So that, you know, starts to make price a real an issue for people. So affordability and style, really, like making sure that we're in front of the trends, that we're up to date really with what's possible in the rug world as well, because that's changed a lot. You know, gone are the days where your options were a plain wool rug or God forbid, a carpet remnant. I remember those days very clearly, where it was a carpet offcut in a half moon shape in front of the fireplace. We've come a long way from there, but rugs are exciting now. And for us, the key thing is to be in front of that, you know, to be the front runners with design and style and trends, and that people trust us, that, you know, they don't have to scour the web or go to every single supplier retailer out there, that they come to us and they'll know we have the latest trends. Yeah, so true, because my favourite when I first saw the Kukoon stand was the maize rug, and I loved it in the orange and I loved it in the lavender, and I just thought it was so fun. But 70s
is and was massive last summer, and you guys were there with it. You had that, you weren't kind of, I guess, behind it, you were kind of leading it, and I didn't see, you know, any other rug brand that had such a cool graphic check print, and it's simple, but it was
and there's
really on point.
The product team are always on board, but when we go into sometimes our sales team and our marketing team's on, and we're telling them we're bringing in a lilac checkerboard, straight away everybody's like, honestly, who's ever going to buy a lilac checkerboard? And we're like, just believe in it. Believe in it. Yeah.
You have one customer. Yeah. If you've no customers, I'm not here anymore.
Well, Maze is one of our best selling collections. So it just shows that it does pay off, and we get it wrong. We definitely get it wrong now and then, so we do. And actually getting it wrong is not fair. I prefer to say we're a little bit too ahead of the trend at times. But you have to take a gamble now and then. Yeah. And I think you have to sometimes cast the net a little bit wide, and it's getting wider because as people become more confident, and especially in Ireland, I think that confidence has been in America and in parts of Europe for years, where people have embraced their homes. It's really only come here in the last 10, 15 years where people are like, no, this is my home, this is my identity, I'm going to style it my way. And that confidence is there now, that people are far more willing to play with colour, with styles, to mix things up. And with that, you know, you have to have a selection, you have to have choice, and people want that feeling that they've been able to pick from a selection. You know, maybe ultimately they've went with the bestseller or an influencer product or something, but like they still want to feel they've had a good selection and they've had the choice.
Yeah, totally. And we're the same. We cater to budgets, from a range of budgets. You know, we have our lines that cater to the new family and the growing family, and then we go all the way up to more like our luxury ranges. You know, a really big moment for us was bringing Hugh Wallace in as a brand ambassador last summer, and we launched our sofa workshop collection, and that was an extension of a sofa that we've pretty much sold 10 years. It was the Scott sofa. You'll know it. But it's a luxurious leather, full aniline, beautiful piece of furniture, totally exclusive to us. And that product we've always believed in, and our customers always believed in. So we decided we were going to bring in a new range of sofas that were that design led. They all reflected bygone eras of interior trend, but classics. And Hugh Wallace was the perfect person to come in and be that voice, communicate to customer, communicate to the customers. He's amazing. Hi Hugh, if you're listening, I hope you are. But no, and it's that thing of, again, doing things differently, but also always being able to kind of stand over the quality of the designs that you're creating, and make sure that you're giving the customer something that, you know, they can sit back and they can say, I've spent my money, but I have a real investment piece here, and, you know, it's going to last me, and they're happy with it. That's really, I suppose, what it all goes back to. So next we're going to do our design dilemma. Okay. So we asked our listeners to submit their questions. So Kathy asks, I have an open plan downstairs, but not sure how to make each space feel separate and match. Yeah, so open plan obviously has been a huge, I wouldn't even call it a trend. I would say at this point it's just a way of life. You know, I know in our own home we knocked down a wall between a kitchen and a living room and a hall, and you actually now come into a very open plan space, and experienced a similar thing about how then you actually zone it to a degree, like or create a bit of, we lost something I didn't realise when we took the wall down. We lost the ability to have a different style in those different areas, and I just hadn't really thought that out properly, and it felt then when I looked at it, oh, this room has to tie together, it has to come together. And I was a little bit disappointed in that I'd lost that ability then to have a couple of different things going on. So it's a challenge, but it is actually, it's quite easy to deal with it if you think of it in zones. And from certainly the rug point of view, it is about anchoring the spaces, but it applies to the furniture and the styling in general. You can still have different looks in the living room, in the dining area, in the kitchen, in the hall, if they're all one big open space. You just have to be clever about the styling. So we would always say it can be totally different looks. You can have different patterns in different spaces, but the style has to be cohesive. They have to talk to each other to some degree, so the tonality has to be there. But you should play about a little bit with it. I actually think having, say, the same style in every area is a little bit bland, unless it's a very sort of muted style you're going for. Like if you're going for a real Scandi laid back look, that makes sense. You know, but it's good to still try and zone it a little bit. And what we would advise from the rug point of view there is to really anchor each space. So to pick the dining room style that you're going for,
pick your rug under the dining table in the same kind of style as the furniture or the vase or the dining ware that you're going to be using, and think of that all together in one space. Same with the living room then. So you're going to have probably the space has been anchored by the sofa, by the big pieces of furniture that's in the room. The rug should be an accent to that. Again, we would advise sort of go bigger with the rug there. We're still in that mindset of the small rug in the island in the middle, and doesn't look great, particularly in an open plan space. It's a difficult one depending on how much furniture you have. The ideal scenario you want is to have all of the legs of the furniture on a rug. So you should see the rug extending out the back of the furniture, be that a sideboard at the back of the sofa or the back of the sofa themselves. But depending on your room, that can be a big rug, a huge rug in fact, so that the budget mightn't stretch. What you should at least aim for is to have the front feet of all the furniture on the rug. And that anchors the space. Whenever you look at it, that brings everything together. That brings all of the furniture pieces together into one central area. The same with the kitchen as well. You can style a kitchen and have different things that say, oh, this is a kitchen space. The colours, again, sort of bringing the tones together, but maybe something a little bit different that designate the kitchen area. So there's lots of advice, actually, lots of blogs written about styling and open plan spaces, and they're worth a read because you can get it wrong. And I think sometimes that's by trying to be too matchy or going totally rogue and having everything totally different. And it is just being brave, having your different identities in the different spaces, but make sure there's some level of cohesion. The tones are somewhat the same, or there's some bit of relevance between them, that it doesn't look completely at odds, unless you love maximalist, and then just go for whatever you want.
Exactly, just throw the kitchen sink at it. Exactly, you can't go wrong. But I think something with open plan as well that's amazing is, just as a lifestyle choice, they're such social spaces, and everything kind of flows very well in an open plan space. So you can have your dinner party, and the best parties are in the kitchen, as the song once said. So you can have your kitchen island space, and people can sit there, and then you can move into the living space. And I think people can be intimidated by how to style them, but rugs are amazing for that. And I'm glad you said zoning, because it's like my favourite term when it comes to rug is they just really create zones. It's like in our stores, you look around and we have lots of different room sets, but there's always a rug to zone it off. So I hope that answers your question, Kathy. Lots of advice from Claire there. Hopefully. So send us pictures once you've got all of your rugs in your open plan space. We can't wait to see them. Okay, so Donna asks, I want to add more colour to my room but don't know where to start. Everything's cream.
Yeah, and I think that's been a huge result of the trend over the last few years. So we were all there for grey. We were grey, and then eventually came grey and ochre and grey and blue and everything. And then all of a sudden it was cream. Everything had to be cream. So everything went cream, and everything went very cream for a while there. And you had, especially with boucle as well. So you were getting cream sofas, cream footstools, cream curtains, then cream rugs, then cream vases. And I think people then were like, oh, hang on a wee minute. And some people still love that, actually. One of our best-selling collections is an entirely cream rug. A gorgeous Zola, really gorgeous collection.
I love Zola. But what Zola has is texture.
It does,
so it makes it different. It's not just flat. It's got something intriguing to it. It's what we call
self-patterned, and that's how we handle cream in terms of, for the people who didn't want to bring colour in, who still love that real cream aesthetic, but actually don't want just bland, plain cream, was through texture. And that's what Zola does wonderfully, in terms of you have a cut pile and a loop pile, and you have the lovely Art Deco arches in it. So and there's the waves design as well. So you're getting, it feels like a pattern, but yet there's no colour, and it is through texture. I think for bringing colour into the really cream environments, again, it's about being a bit brave. It's just leaning into the colour that you love. Inevitably, there will be something in that room that has a bit of colour that you really like. It could be a vase, it could be the tiniest accent colour on a piece of ornamentation or on a cushion or something. And if you love that colour, I think it's about really leaning into it and pulling that colour out and saying, well, this is finding the bravery through that. I wouldn't suggest somebody just goes, who's maybe not used to a colour, full hog and colour everywhere, but start with that colour and start to bring the tones of it in. So if it's a lovely blue in a vase, start to maybe think, well, can I bring a bit more of that blue tone? Maybe it's going to be slightly darker or slightly lighter into some cushions. Kind of bring it in the accents of a rug. So you're still going to probably have a cream base or something that's quite light and airy, but there'll be a little bit more colour into it. And bit by bit, bring it into the room. So it's going to be very hard, I think, to go from a totally cream aesthetic to walking in the next day and suddenly you have a huge dramatic wall done in a dark navy and pops of jewel colours everywhere. Like, unless you're very, very brave with your interiors, that's a hard transition. But you can certainly start to bring it in the accents. And the good thing about that is, if you get it wrong, it's easy to change. The cushions, rugs, vases, they can be moved around the home. You know, they can easily go to a bedroom. If it's something that you're like, no, I don't love it actually, you can move them on. Unlike, say, curtains, you know, where you're getting into size issues and all, like, is it going to fit different windows? So for me, that's where I would start, with the accents in the room. Bring it in, get confident with it, and then start to play about. So if you've went with the blues, find a complementary colour, like it's going to be yellows or complementary green, and maybe add in a second colour and build from there. Yeah,
and repetition is definitely key. We like to talk about the rule of threes. So coffee table has 3 accent pieces. Cushions will be in 3s, and it almost creates kind of a triangle. And for some reason, our eyes love triangles, and we love repetition, and it just moves your eye across a room and adds layers of interest. So colour, I think people can be really afraid of, but there are some, not rules, but there's cheats that you can use to kind of, like, you know, form the basis.
No, absolutely. And apparently that rule of 3 goes way, way back to architecture, like hundreds of years ago. That's recognised as that rule of 3. I suppose it's maybe, is it some ways the opposite of symmetry? You know, we lean into symmetry an awful lot, and people think you always have to have an even number of things. But actually, from an aesthetics point of view, from appreciating detail, the rule of 3 apparently is true, right from architecture to styling. So I'd lean into that one quite a lot as well, in terms of 3 is the golden number.
Thanks for your question, Donna. Send us pictures. Next, we'll dive into Behind the Style, and this is all about you, Clare. We'll explore your creative vision, product design and personal style. Kukoon is known for having an enormous selection with over 600 exclusive designs. Tell us about the product development journey and how you stay ahead of interiors trends.
Yeah, the product development journey is, it can be difficult actually at times, because we have a lot of competing sources of information, and number one is our own really passionate team. So our product team are on a daily basis coming up with ideas, things that they've seen, that can be in their own lives, stuff that they've seen during travel, that they picked up in magazines and Pinterest boards. So you're dealing with a lot of that input. We're then dealing with customer feedback all the time. We have constant surveys running on our website, and we do small focus groups, and like the directors have actually spent a bit of time recently contacting customers, just asking questions about the product and about what's missing. And we're always trying to gather that information about maybe why did a customer not buy, or why did they nearly not buy, or was there something they would have changed about the rug, you know, to try and keep evolving the collection. From the bigger trend point of view, like, we do a lot of work with comp shop, and, you know, with getting out there with where the journey starts for the customer. So coming into you guys and saying, well, what are the latest colours in sofas? Because quite often that's the biggest thing anchoring a room. And, you know, you might love a rug, but if it just doesn't match your sofa, you're not going to buy it. So that's really a good lead point for us. Actually, the same with kitchens. Back to the point about open plan living. You're seeing a lot of coloured kitchens, and for a while there it was all about navy.
Yeah, true.
Now it's all about green.
Yeah.
If you have an open plan space and you have your living room and kitchen in the same room, and you have a great big navy island, that's going to determine the rug choice that you make. So we're very careful to be completely up to speed with what's going on there. So we're bringing in rugs that match those big pieces of furniture. We do love to travel for a bit of style inspiration too. So we've been to New York, we've been to London multiple times. Favourite is probably Paris. So we go to Maison in Objet, if you know it, and we go around the department stores in Paris. So that's probably my favourite trip that we do, and that's to the Galeries Lafayette and stuff. Just fantastic places for inspiration. You cannot not go to Paris and be inspired.
Totally.
So you can't, like, it's just... Now, for me, that's for the real forward-thinking inspiration. You know, that's for the pieces that we don't know what we're going to do with yet. Maybe not the most commercial, for the wild cards, as we call them, or the stuff that people look at and go, "Oh wow, that's fantastic." You know, you'd
more conceptual.
More conceptual, yeah. Sometimes we try and distill those pieces down into something that will be ultimately more commercial. That people will look at and go, I could live with that and buy that. Sometimes we just go totally rogue and take the concept and go for it with the rug itself. So we do a lot as well with the trend websites, you know, staying on top of that really, and getting the heads up kind of before the general population really, in terms of like the colours of the year and all. Exactly, trying to be ahead of all of that. Like you know that before it comes out essentially, and you're trying to preempt, well, how's that going to work in a rug? You know, what's Smoke and Moose going to actually look like in the rug world? And we follow fashion a lot as well, and that can sometimes throw you off, because I think there is a very strong link between fashion and homewares. 100%. Some of it just works perfectly and some of it doesn't. And then sometimes, you know, you can get your head turned by some of the big trends in fashion, but actually it's always going to be very hard to convert it, particularly into a rug. You might get it into some of the other accent pieces. And sort of examples of that for us have been burgundy, more so last year into autumn winter 24, but even buttermilk yellow is huge at the moment. And like we would take a step back, because we're all like, how do we get buttermilk yellow into rugs? Buttermilk yellow is big at the moment. We need buttermilk yellow rugs. And you're kind of like, does buttermilk yellow suit a rug? Do people want buttermilk yellow on their floor? Yes. And then it's for us saying, it's trying to distill that down into what does this mean in the rug world? You know, and ultimately that kind of thing. It's the same with burgundy. Burgundy is stunning. Do you want an entire burgundy rug on your floor? Probably not, but you want burgundy accents, you want burgundy highlights in it. So it's a lot of times it's about distilling those trends down. Then times it's really leaning into it. So chocolate brown, you could see that coming clearly a couple of years ago. I remember walking into Next, the most commercial sort of outlet you can get, and the whole stand at the front in the women's clothing section was chocolate brown, and I was like, oh, brown's coming. It's coming. I know, and here it is. Coming.
And you know, I can see the maize rug in a chocolate brown.
Absolutely.
I can see it.
Absolutely. And we just go back and say it to some of our team, and they're like, oh no, who's going to ever decorate with chocolate brown? Like, and here it is. You know, it's already totally around us, and it can come very quickly. It can go very quickly as well. So when we see some of those more macro trends coming, like, it's really leaning into it and being brave and saying, well, actually, what people want here is a selection of chocolate brown rugs to pick from, not just one. You know, but then it's knowing, right, this is more of a micro trend. You know, we need to be there for the customer who wants it, but do we think it's still going to be there in a year's time, or do we need to have a selection of rugs in that colour? Probably not.
And I think in a sense that could lean into a sustainability angle, because I guess if you know that your container might take 6 months to come in, right, and then you've got this container full of stock coming in, and you know the customer isn't interested anymore, you're not going after the quick sell clearly in your business. You're going after what the customer will love and what they will want. And it's not just about rugs that will kind of be part of that micro trend. So it is kind of, and I know for us it's a big part of our product journey. We stock for the season and we sell that stock, and then we start with empty shelves again for the next season.
Oh no, absolutely. And that's been a big journey for us to come on, is coming away from this thing of very deep stocks, because that's one thing online sales can lead to, because if something takes off and sells really well, it can sell really well and you need the stock to back it, but that can lead to very wasteful ordering, and you know, you're carrying too deep a stock across the board. So we've got a lot better at that in recent years ourselves, in terms of, actually it's more in the people that we partner with, the manufacturers that we partner with, that they can work to lower MOQs and quicker turnaround times and all, so as we can be as responsive as we need to be to the customer and be right ahead of the trends without, say, carrying, you know, a couple of years stock. And you know, a lot of people were caught, like the grey to neutral trend that happened sort of really during COVID came in very quickly and took a lot of people by surprise. You know, I would say that change happened nearly overnight to a degree. Like, everything had been grey, and grey was the basis for everything. So every complementary colour was complementary to grey. And then very quickly it was neutral. Everything was cream and beige. But that also changes the complementary colours, because if you think it had been grey and ochre for quite a few years, that the ochre colour doesn't really match the neutrals, the creams and the beiges. So everything was out of fashion. You know, you had to change everything with it, and we were left then with quite a depth of stock in that kind of colour and all. But there's still a market for it. You know, it's just about trying to manage that piece. Yeah,
totally. And we're the same. You kind of, you know, you can take a chance on a product. It could be something that just really doesn't land with the customer. But you've taken a chance. So ultimately, nothing's lost. And there will always be a customer for something.
It is funny, the things that you don't see. We've had quite a few design faux pas over the years, but one of them sticks with me. It was a collection we'd done, a wool rug a few years ago, and it was scallops have come back in. Interestingly, scallops everywhere, but scallops were in it this time as well. So our designer had done a gorgeous rug and a scallop repeat pattern all over in a lovely duck egg blue, and the scallop was in a cream colour. So we were all raving about it. Order made, sample hanging in the design room. I think it was one of the girls in the retail team had come in to the design office, and she was like, "Why Wi-Fi? What, you designed a Wi-Fi rug?" And as soon as she said it, I was like, she is right. That looks like a whole lot of wee Wi-Fi symbols on the rug. I had never seen it before and couldn't unsee it. And forevermore, it was known as the Wi-Fi rug.
Wi-Fi rug. I love that.
I think it was nearly a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then everybody's like, this is only ever going to be seen as a Wi-Fi rug, and it maybe didn't get the same love and attention. And it ultimately didn't end up being one of the better sellers, but there's plenty of those stories.
We all have our Wi-Fi rugs though. We laugh, and it's a wall art that we sell, and it does really well, but it's called Dog with Pineapple, and it's literally what it sounds like. It's a dog holding a pineapple, and people love it. It's really cute, but to your Wi-Fi rug, we have Dog with Pineapple, so I get it.
But that's part of being brave, and I think it's the same in retail as it is in people's homes. We're expecting customers to be brave, and we're appealing to customers to be brave, and don't be always so beholden to what the trend is, or what somebody's telling you should buy. Like, if you love it, buy it and have that confidence. But as retailers, we're the same, and as a product brand, we have to have that bravery sometimes, and be willing to get it wrong. And we do, like, we lean into some quirky colours and trends and styles because we know there is somewhat of a customer there for it, and just taking that bravery and saying, and we've had some great successes off the back of that. So we've brought rugs in being like, is there a customer for this? We're not quite sure, but we love it. We're going to bring it in, and they've been really successful.
Yeah, and like some of our best-selling sofas as well. We've one, it's called the Truman, and it comes in a gorgeous pumpkin orange, and it comes in a gorgeous green, and it does so well. But pumpkin orange isn't something that you might think that everyone would like, or even, we've a gorgeous sofa called Bottega, and it's this really kind of different sofa. It's very squared off and structural, and it's in a gorgeous green, and it might not be for everybody, but there's a customer who will appreciate that design and the thought that goes into it.
Again, it's a synergy between sort of, retail and your customers, and that you can have different elements in the same space. And I think if the Easy Living showrooms were entirely stocked with neutral or brown leather sofas, it would be really boring.
It would be.
You need to, like, you may never buy that pumpkin orange one. That might not be your taste, but I love seeing it. Like, I love walking around the store and I love seeing it styled and being like, oh, isn't that fantastic?
Yeah.
I'm inspired by seeing it. And I think it's important as well in a home, we were debating one day in the product team around, can you really love different styles? Like, can somebody love Scandi and cottage core?
Yeah.
And I think the world has moved on so much from this belief that you are a trend, you are a look, and that's a box you must sit in forever. Agree. And we're just not like that as humans. I could show up one day in the most flamboyant rainbow dress that you've ever seen. I'm a walking rainbow. And the next day I could walk into the office in leggings and a black sports top.
Yeah.
So, like, in our fashion, we've adopted that concept of you can be a lot of different looks. And I think people are getting there in their homes as well. And you are seeing that, where maybe people are keeping things quite calm in the everyday spaces in the living room and all, where, but they're being playful in bathrooms, and you're seeing a lot of super playful wallpapers, paneling, artwork. People are really going for it. And like, I would love to see people embrace that a bit more, just a wee bit more personality, and take that brave step that they want to, because we all want to do it in one level. You mightn't want to have it everywhere, but put it in some places in your home and play around with it.
Yeah, and rugs are the way to do it. Cushions are the way to do it. Accent pieces, the way to do it. Our accessories collection for this spring summer actually is my favourite I've ever seen. There's vases that are like pink dogs, and there is like really fun colours and prints and patterns, and it's fun, and you can have that experimental sense in your home accessories, your rugs, your wall art, and it's kind of removing that fear and that sense of permanency that people are maybe afraid to be a bit different, but we should be a bit different.
Playful.
Okay, fantastic. The artist designed ranges, including collaborations with creatives like Jacqueline Rooney and Sadie Smith, are standout collections. What draws you to these kind of partnerships?
Again, I just love the partnership piece in general. I just think there's so much opportunity for shared storytelling. And again, it wasn't really possible in the rug world up until the last couple of years because the technology wasn't there to support multiple looks and multiple colours. It now is. We can produce rugs based off anything, off any imagery, themes, designs, anything at all, which has completely opened up our world of partnerships. And we are leaning into it massively because there's so much, I suppose it's a wee bit of a challenger mindset. It feels sometimes you can be up against the big guys, like how are you competing with the big multinational brands. And one thing we can offer that they can't is that authenticity of family company, family values and storytelling. And those partnerships have really brought that to life. So say Jacqueline Rooney, she's an artist very local to our HQ in Uri. And a fantastic artist who paints with really vibrant colours. And you would look at her stuff and go, I don't see rugs there. I'm not quite sure where you're seeing rugs, but it works. And again, it's brave, it's not for everybody by any means, but that's where it's really important. And what's working there is, Jacqueline's leaning into our customers and our ability to bring footfall and open her brand up to new people. But that's working the other way too. Jacqueline's customers and followers and all may never have heard of Kukoon, and they're being introduced to us as a brand, and we're telling that story together. And I think there's wonderful opportunities there to really help independent brands, independent designers and artists and all reach more people and to sort of fight against the big guys a little bit more and really make that touch point with the customer more authentic, because maybe they can come in and see it. They actually get to experience the product in reality. And partnerships is a big part of our plan going forward. The partnership and the design piece is a huge opportunity for us because, people who have their own independent design skills, we can't employ an infinite number of designers.
Of course.
But we can continue to work with partners who have their own really pleasing design aesthetic that's unique to them, and then bring that concept into the rug world. And it's worked brilliantly so far. So you'll be seeing a lot more of it coming.
Yeah. Can't wait to stay tuned. Kukoon rugs are stocked in so many different sizes and styles. How important is it to you that there's something for every kind of home?
Yeah, that's really important. Again, probably coming back to our formative years in the markets, the aim is you're never going to please every customer. You're just not. You're not going to have something for absolutely everybody who comes. But we'd like to think we have something for the vast majority. That's why most of our rugs come in a large selection of sizes. We try to work across a couple of different price points as well. And that's not even just for different customers. The same customer can want different price points for different rooms.
Yeah, 100%.
So if it's going into a kids' room or utility room or around a dining table, you probably don't want to commit a big budget to that, because it's going to get a fair bit of abuse.
Even the hallway even.
Exactly, yeah. Where maybe if it's going into an office or a bedroom, that's something that you might be like, I'm willing to spend a bit more, that's going to last me for quite a while. So we try to work across a few different price points as well. Styles, looks, we're very much into trying to please a lot of different people, and it's difficult. And sometimes you're like, we shouldn't be bringing that rug in. It's a small market. There's very few customers for it. But we want to please that customer. We don't want them to go away going, no, I couldn't get anything in Kukoon. So that's what we endeavour to do. And really, our washable collections have been great for that, because we've really been able to experiment with design and colour and bring in a wide range of different looks. And I think we're really hitting that mark now.
Do you have a favourite collection or design at the moment, potentially your soft washables?
Oh no, Laura, that's like asking me if I have a favourite child. A favourite. We've over 600 rugs. A favourite. Oh, I do. I have to go with soft washable from the collection point of view, because we've worked so hard to bring that collection to market, really. And that it's been a dream for a few years now. We have been very aggressively pursuing a washable rug that's soft. So our flat woven one that we first brought in, customers absolutely loved it, adored it. It's a far bigger success than I could have ever hoped it would be. So we really hit that market right. But there's still people who are like, oh, I would love it to be a little bit softer. And I agreed with that. From my own personal perspective, I'm like, I love everything about this. I love the colours, I love the designs. I just would love it to be that just a bit softer. And that's what we've done. And that's what the soft washable is all about, is, still bringing all of those brilliant USPs, the washability, perfect for family homes, busy environments, but actually there's design and style there as well. But it's soft touch. So it's a really exciting product development, like a true innovation in the market. You won't find it anywhere else. So I love that collection from the innovation and just the excitement of being able to make it happen. My favourite design is from that collection as well, and it wouldn't be a universal one, it's Verity. So it's based off a Kashan, like one of the handmade rugs, a wee bit like the Savannah actually, a gorgeous medallion in the middle of it, but it's done in terracottas and navies and blues. So really I love reds and terracottas, warm tones. That would be my go-to for homewares.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of an innovation on that. So it's not the traditional reds, but it's still really warm, but it just feels like a new an updated version of it. So I love Verity.
Gorgeous. Do you have Verity in your own home?
I do. Yes, of course. I have a lot of rugs.
I'm sure actually. How many rugs do you think you have in your...
I progressed to swapping rugs out, with seasons in terms of, so I'll have in the living room, I'll have one rug that's sort of spring, summer. Yeah. I have another rug then for autumn and a different rug for Christmas. Yeah. So we'll not answer that question. Let's just say it's good that we sell rugs because I feel that fire. But I do love rugs and I always have done. Yeah. So, and I think you can play a lot with them, change the vibe of a room, same with cushions and all, just by swapping them out. It just feels, without ever touching a paintbrush, or it just feels like you have redecorated.
Breath of fresh air,
It's like when you move furniture around. It's like what you were saying when you were a kid moving furniture around. It's the same feeling.
Yeah. And it's even for any younger maybe renters listening, or I don't know, you could be a student. Cushions and rugs, when you move into a place that you're renting, you are limited. Your furniture you likely can change. You can't really do anything structural, but accessories can really be how you can show your personality. So like the dog vases I was talking about, and playful bowls, dinnerware, you can do all of that. You can get a rug, you can get cushions, so you can really develop a sense of identity without having to change the furniture in the place as well. So home accessories, not to be overlooked.
Absolutely. And even swapping them room to room. I think we forget that sometimes, that if you get sort of a bit fed up of looking at a room that you're in a lot, swap it up with another room. The accent pieces, you can move them around, totally transform your home without actually spending a penny.
Yeah, it's so true actually. Very inexpensive and affordable. Even our vases, like they're a really, really good price point. I'll show you the vases actually. I keep talking about them, but you'll have to see them. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing this pink dog.
I'm really talking him up. We actually used him on the stage for Darren Garrahy in Cork Opera House. And he was amazing. And we used your rug. We used the maize actually.
That looked lovely. So it was the lilac maize, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, my actual favourite. Yeah. What part of running Kukoon do you enjoy the most? Is there a particular area of the business that really energises you or feels the most creatively fulfilling?
It's definitely product, over the years I've had to do a lot of different areas in the business. When we started, myself and Paul photographed, listed, answered every message, wrapped every rug, dispatched every rug, and in all the intervening years we've had to do a lot of roles until we could get big enough to employ the right person that should be doing that role. So I have done a lot of different parts of the business, and it's always been product for me. It's just the bit that I absolutely love. It's the bit that you can get really creative. Probably, if I'm truthfully honest about, very territorial about, and trying not to be, because we have a great product team. So Diana and Chloe do a great job. They don't need me. They could do the thing on their own, but it's my baby in a lot of ways, and I can get very passionate. If I'm passionate about a particular collection or a design, like I'll fight like it is my own child to get it into a collection, and then cross my fingers and hope that it really sells.
I know, because you don't want to be sat there like,
I got that one wrong. But and I've had to do that quite a few times. But it's the bit that that's how I know I love it so much, because I get really territorial about it. I really enjoy the marketing side too. So I work quite closely. We obviously have our own marketing team. But I love being involved in the campaigns. Yeah. Now, I'll bow to their expertise on this one. I'm not a marketing expert by any means, but I love coming up with ideas. I love the ideation part of the marketing thing whenever we're trying to think about, well, how do we get to the customer, and how do we introduce them more to Kukoon and tell them a bit more about who we are and all. So
it was at the Ideal Home Show last year. You had those new posters, and it was different types of Kukooners. Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, and that's, again, it's playing into that bit about being playful, you know, actually, and about saying we do have different identities and different sort of reasons why we love Kukoon, and just leaning into that.
Yeah, totally. You do it very well. So let's talk about what inspires you today. The mood board will offer a snapshot of what's inspiring you creatively right now. What's catching your eye at the moment in the world of interiors, colours, textures or design styles?
It's probably, we talked a bit about it already, the chocolate browns. You know, I'm really interested to see how that's being styled in different homes, and I just think it's such an interesting colour to work with because it feels quite new. It does feel like we haven't seen an awful lot of it, even though I can remember back in our early days chocolate brown was quite popular, but in a slightly less stylised way than we see it now. So seeing a lot of chocolate browns and really loving watching how people are styling it and the colours that they're matching it with and the furniture that they're combining with it and all. I just love that end of it. Art Deco is still quite big, and we're finding that coming back a little bit actually in strength. So we're seeing a lot of those Art Deco arches and being paired with brass and gold tones, and the biophilic, the tropical leaves and stuff even starting to combine a little bit into the Art Deco world as well. People looking for colour with Art Deco. So traditionally for us, our Art Deco has always been quite muted, so either done in neutrals or really just your blacks and golds. But now we're seeing a little bit of burgundy and even coral coming into some of the designs that we're bringing in that people are loving. So a lot around that too. Texture's a big one. Texture's a huge one. So jute has been, I thought jute maybe would have been a little bit of a passing fancy, but it hasn't. Jute's been thereabouts, and people are loving it, and people are getting more confident with it. I think at the start people were like, I love it but don't know what to do with it, whereas now jute, and people are beginning to play with jute and colour. We have a great rug Casper that has a scalloped edge, and we can't keep it in stock. People just absolutely love it. And again, it's playful but without colour. So it ticks a couple of boxes, you know, for the people who like to keep it quite neutral but still want a little bit of, you know, something different in the room. So I think there's a lot going on really at the minute. You know, it's probably as varied as it's ever been in the interiors world. There's a lot. You know, it felt there like it had got very homogenous for a while. I think during the end of the grey period, everything had just got trellises, geometrics, and I, to be honest, I was getting a bit bored. You know, I was like, God, is this actually the gig for me anymore? Because I just can't bring another grey rug into this business or I'm going to cry. And so it's great to see it changed an awful lot. And I think now there's more choice than ever. Like, people are going mad for colour. And I've never seen it in the 20 years we've been doing this. I've never seen such bravery with colour as we are seeing now, and we're getting braver off the back of it. You know, we're getting far more playful with colour now, and colours that we never would have went near before. We're talking about bringing into the business and really leaning into that. But then there's still a huge, I'd say probably a bigger following for the neutrals. People playing with texture because they're loving the real neutral vibe, different sort of tones of cream and of beige, but then trying to bring a bit of texture and feeling into the room. So we're seeing a lot going on in interiors. I know,
it's an exciting time for sure in interiors. And I suppose Kukoon has the opportunity to be the trend makers as well as, you know, so you can be the taste makers as well. So that's an exciting position to be in. Thank you. Has your own style changed over the years since starting Kukoon?
It's an interesting one. Has it changed? I think I've tried to follow trends and never been very good at it. So no, to one sense it hasn't, in that I can't help just buying things that I love, be that in clothes or homewares. And like, I'm a walking irony a lot of the time in terms of I literally just, if I love it, I'll buy it and try and make it work. And that is something that's probably changed. I've probably become a little bit more skillful in the making it work piece, but I still just buy it if I love it. And I've always been like that. And you're not going to see my home and socials anytime soon because it's just a hodgepodge of 101 different things going on, but I love it, and that's important, and the family loves it, and we're all comfortable there, and I don't think anybody's going to be massively inspired by it. But my own style has always been probably eclectic would be the best word for it, and that hasn't changed. But I've learned just from being in the interiors world and being surrounded by yourselves and other people in the interiors environment, I've learned a lot more about how to style it and probably how to contain it a little bit more and give it a proper kind of home.
I do think fashion tells a lot about a person, and in your cardigan it's gorgeous and it's cute colours and it's gorgeous, so I can see the eclecticism. So, and it's great that you've kind of stayed true to that kind of sense.
Well, like
a
few years ago I probably would have had them styled with like rainbow coloured trousers of some description or another. I've now learned,
wrong with it.
Well, no, I've now learned one colourful thing is enough. Everything else needs to be plain.
Do you, Claire? Do you?
Yeah, it's debatable.
Stop. What best describes the feeling of home for you?
It's comfort. Like home has to be a sanctuary. You know, you can tell when you go into somebody's home and it's not truly reflective of them. You can tell whenever they went to page 78 of a catalogue and bought it,
Yeah.
essentially, you know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't speak to them. And I think home, whatever that is for you, and that could be the most plain, neutral, serene place, and it could be a riot of colour and anything in between, but it should be comfortable for you. It should be warm and it should be a sanctuary. A home is that place where children come home to feel safe. It's a sanctuary for adults after a stressful day in work and all. And if you're not truly loving your home, you know, if it's something has been done for you, then I think it's time to take a bit of a brave step and put a bit of your own style in it.
Totally. And again, there's no point looking at a catalogue and saying that's what I need because that's what's in the catalogue. It has to be something that will last and it'll reflect you.
It can be an inspiration. It can be, and it often is for me, especially Pinterest. It's a starting point for if I'm going to redesign a room, you know, find a style that I love and leaning into it. And I would use it as a starting point a lot.
Yeah.
But you have to layer in bits that you love.
Yeah.
You can't just recreate it completely.
Yeah. I find one of my favourite things about people is their fridges, because fridges, it might have the kids' artwork on it and it'll have the magnets from where you've travelled to, and it's the fridges where people aren't afraid and they're willing to put all the crazy things. But
true.
you know, your personal mementos, I actually had a conversation with someone yesterday about this. They are what you should really bring out and see every day, because they're what will fill you with joy and they'll remind you of something or a special memory that you might have.
We do that everywhere we go. We would try and bring home something, some usually small because we don't want to take over the whole space, but it can be a magnet or a little wall ornament or something. Usually a wall ornament because we've run out of surfaces to put stuff on, or we keep them for bigger pieces of places that we've been. And I love it because, and we actually have them in the, you know, the kitchen windows, you know, that the bit that's sideways onto the window. I don't know what the technical name is for it, but like we have those, it's stuff hanging there, and I look at them and I'll get an instant happy, an endorphin rush from a memory of a holiday we've been on and all. So it's again very personal.
Special, yeah, exactly. Next, we'll get into the Kukoon edit. With Kukoon, you've helped build a design-led rug brand known for its bold decisions, creativity and customer-first mindset. We want to step into the heart of your world at Kukoon, from what drives your inspiration to how you keep the brand feeling fresh. We'll also reflect on our partnership. One thing that really stands out about Kukoon is the energy and passion of your team across design, customer service, e-commerce, social media and more. There's a real sense that everyone is deeply tuned into trends and driven by a shared vision. What do you think it is that makes your team so special, and how do you foster that kind of culture?
Our team are fantastic, and I think they have a lot of autonomy, and in truth I think that probably is why we make a real effort from the recruitment stage to hire people who care, like who really care about what we're doing, about the customer experience with Kukoon, about their job role and how they fit into that. And then we just let them at it. You know, so we by and large just get out of their way. And I think that really is why we have such a fantastic team, because they feel ownership of their own job role, of the department, and ultimately of the company. Yeah. So myself and Paul may have set the bigger picture vision of where we'd like to go, but the team are the guys who are driving it and who are making a lot of it happen.
Yeah, like we've obviously worked with a lot of your team members from across various functions, and everyone that I've met, even it's still that same sense of passion, drive, friendliness, and you can really feel, again, you mentioned earlier the thread that keeps everyone kind of connected, and you can really feel it. And I think ultimately for a business to kind of get to where you've gotten, there has to be like strong people behind it that have kind of been that passionate driving force. So
that's very similar to yourselves, and you can see that in Easy Living too. Like it's just, it permeates on the shop floor, and that's really where you can tell it. You may have a senior team who are incredibly bought in and all. If it doesn't come right through the company on every level, on every department, you can tell, and you can see in Easy Living that everybody's passionate. They're passionate about the customer, and they're passionate about the journey that Easy Living's on, and they want to be a part of that.
And even the product, like there's been times where like we've been screaming because a new collection has landed in the studio. Like myself and Lois, when our cushions arrived, we did an outdoor photo shoot, and our outdoor cushions arrived the day before, and we were literally like kids on Christmas unboxing these boxes of cushions, because we were like, the timing couldn't be better. We can bring these to our shoot and it's going to look so amazing. So it's a love for the product. I think is a big deal as well, and
that's infectious.
That
is infectious, because you know in the past I've seen maybe where we've had smaller amounts of the company interested in the product. You know, maybe they've interests elsewhere. That's really changed, and now we have a lot of interest across a lot of departments, and sometimes a bit less interest would be good, because you're dealing with a lot of opinions all the time.
Yeah.
But in truth, I love it because that's where the passion is, you know, and that's where the energy comes from.
Yeah, totally. Last summer marked a really exciting moment in both Kukoon and Easy Living Interiors' stories with the launch of our partnership. As we became a Kukoon retailer across our 22 stores, what made this collaboration feel like the right fit?
Yeah, it's the natural synergies between us. So I think we touched on a lot of that earlier. We just share the same values. You know, we're both coming from family-led backgrounds, so we care massively about the customer. You can see that in both companies really, really clearly. It was important for us. Like, that was the main thing we were looking for, is, you know, who has that similar value, that they'll do what needs to be done. They'll compromise where compromises need to be made to make it the best experience for the customer. And like, I done a lot of store visits, you know, before reaching out or anything, to try and get a feel for who is the right partner, who looks at the customer the same way that we do, in terms of, no matter what you think, they are the customer and they are right. So they aren't, you have to try and meet them at where their demands are.
Yeah.
And you can see that in Easy Living. You can see it in the investment. You can see it in the styling that goes on, in the staff and how friendly and engaged they are. And that very much replicated the values of Kukoon. And I think that's why it's worked so well.
Yeah, the feeling is mutual for sure from both sides. So it just works, I suppose, is ultimately at the core of it. It just works.
Yeah, and you can tell it's a gut thing.
Yeah,
it is
exactly. Because I remember Bellegarde was going to be, we were going to launch in Bellegarde. Sure, we'd rolled out, pardon the pun again, we'd rolled out within maybe like 2 months. We had the hubs in every shop. So it's just, when something feels right, you go for it. And that's definitely something that both of our businesses have in common.
Agreed.
One of the most exciting aspects of our partnership is how customers can now see Kukoon Rugs styled within our room settings. Do you think seeing the product in context helps with customer confidence?
No doubt. Oh, absolutely. That's the golden ticket for us. That's the thing that, you know, on our own, we're always trying to achieve. So we do a lot of product shoots, we do a lot of videos, you know, the social guys do an awful lot in customer homes, and, you know, trying to get customer images so as we can replicate that online. But you can't beat in store. You cannot beat going in and actually going, oh, that's how you'd style that rug, or that's where you get the confidence if you love it. And then you see it on a floor somewhere and you're like, oh, I can identify with this space. It just makes it such an easier choice for people. And it's very hard to replicate online. It's very hard to replicate in a rug-only store.
Yep.
You need the pieces, you need the environment, you need the sofa, the light, the finishing touches to bring it all together. So
look.
That's been invaluable. That's been a huge eye-opener, you know, for just how important that is for the customer.
Totally. Yeah. And even our customers, again, it was that excitement when our customers could come in and see and feel. I think there was a demand there already, and I know you've already said, like, Ideal Home Show, you'd be there and people were like, when is the shop opening, when are you coming to Dublin? So I just think whatever happened, the timing was right, the two businesses were right, and it makes sense. Yeah. It's time for a quick fire round. We'll ask you 5 quick questions to get your top tips, favourite things and style preferences. No need to overthink it. This round is about first instincts.
Okay.
Favourite room in your own home?
It would be my little girl's nursery. And this probably is very much of the moment in terms of, we had 3 boys and then we had a little girl last September, and we didn't really have a nursery for the 3 boys, actually. They twins and then another one very quickly, whereas I've just fully embraced the nursery concept with her. And if there's pink floral wallpaper or stripes or scallops or bobbin beading left in this country, I'll be surprised, because I have fully went for it. And it turned it into a wee, just for note, she doesn't sleep in it. So she doesn't. No, she's still in our bed and in a cot beside our bed. She has yet to go into this room. So, but my husband jokes that it's her dressing room. It's her own. She has her own dressing room. The 3 boys are in a bedroom of their own.
That's really special.
I've really enjoyed decorating it. It's been a lot of fun, and it's actually been a great experience for me to think of homewares through that lens, and just how much we've evolved for decorating nurseries and kids' rooms, and just what a part of our home they now are. Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. And I think as well, like, you know, a girl mom, like, you know, that's after 3 boys, as much as, you know, boys are energetic and they're fun, but I think girls, it is that styling, and it's totally different.
She hasn't a clue. She doesn't. This is not for her. This is entirely for me, and I'm okay admitting that.
As you should. I love that. Favourite Kukoon rug at the moment?
Verity. Yeah, the soft washable Verity. Just absolutely love it. So washable rug, soft feel, gorgeous traditional medallion in terracottas and blues. I love everything about it.
I'll admit I haven't seen this one, so I can't wait to look
It is
at it.
new. You might
It
have seen it. It's
like
only
brand new launched, right?
Yeah, it's just still in pre-order at the moment. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. Favorite way to unwind and recharge? Favorite TV show, movie, or hobby?
4 small children, we don't get a lot of time to unwind, in truth. So I really do enjoy watching a good series. So like, we're actually watching Mad Men.
I'm watching Mad Men.
And
And when you were talking about having the choice, I was thinking I just watched the episode where it's the lipstick, and not every woman wants to be a shade.
Yeah.
Stop.
We are both then very late to the game in this one, because I actually checked last night. The season we're watching now is from 2009.
Yeah,
so
mine's 07. I'm on season 1. Yeah,
but I'm really loving it actually at the minute. So it's a long time since I think it's probably Peaky Blinders since I've last been addicted to a series. So I'm loving getting home, getting everybody to bed and on, getting that on. The weekends a glass of wine, watching it. So that's really how we unwind. Love travel, just don't get to do it as much.
Of course. I guess at least your work brings you travel.
It does.
Trips, so that's good.
And escape.
Exactly. Favorite holiday destination?
We actually were in Montpellier for the first time last year, which I loved. Fantastic. And that's an inspirational place. A lot of wonderful architecture. The food was great. Really loved it. Probably overall it's Italy, particularly Lake Como. There's a wee tiny town called Verona on the shores of Lake Como that's just... I think I dream about it. I think that's one of my daydreams. Sometimes when I want to escape, I'm just sitting at a nice wee bar or restaurant in Verona. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, your spiritual place.
Not the place you take 4 small children, so it might be a while before I see it again, but I absolutely love it.
Sounds gorgeous. I'm sold. Favourite memory from your entire Kukoon journey so far?
My favourite memory actually was launching our flat woven collection back in 2022, because it was the first time that we'd really come together with a real plan for a product that we all loved and massively believed in, that we knew the customer was going to love it and get behind it, but not as much as they ultimately did. We had great fun designing it, we had great fun bringing it to market, we had great fun doing the campaign, the teasers, everything about it, and then just to cap it all off, it was a really successful launch. And I think it just re-energised everybody. It brought a pep back into the company that we'd maybe been missing for a year or two, sort of during that COVID spell before it. So that's probably my favourite memory so far. Yeah.
And I think as well, like you say, when it does well, that adds an extra value, because it's when the customer buys into it and ultimately you've reached that goal that the customer is satisfied with that choice and that range that you've created.
It's no fun without that end point.
Totally.
If you put all the effort in and then the customer doesn't love it,
you're like, that's my baby. Why don't you
just
love
have to let it go?
Yeah, totally. Okay, great. So to close out the episode, we'll ask for your best take-home tip. So it could be anything from how to choose a rug. It could be like the way to shop. What is your best take-home tip?
The biggest mistake we see being made with rugs is still people buying too small. And I think that's an Ireland-specific problem. And that's to do with the homes we were brought up in, because traditionally rugs were that central piece in the middle of the floor with the furniture sitting around it, and you could see the floor in between the rug and the furniture. And people for bedrooms are buying like a tiny wee 5 foot by 3 foot rug that sits at the bottom of the bed. It's totally lost in the room. And even people in smaller rooms are thinking, it has to be a small rug. A big rug will overcrowd the room or overwhelm it, and it doesn't. It actually... It needs to be bigger, like it needs to be on the scale of the furniture, and ideally if you can get the front legs at very least onto the rug, and if you can all of the legs of the furniture onto the rug, you'll see a massive difference. Same with bedrooms. If you're going to put a rug in the bedroom, I know a lot of people are like, half the rug's under the bed, but that's really when it looks at its best. You want the rugs coming out of the 3 sides that aren't against the wall, essentially, and you want ideally at least 2 foot at each side. So whatever size your bed is, that's really the dimensions we'd be working off. So, colour, style, like I would really appeal to people to just go with what they love. But actually sizing does have some parameters to it, and to really study out what size suits your room best, and don't be afraid to go for that bigger size. In most cases people will not be disappointed. Yeah, and it's exactly like that. If you have one at the end of your bed, then, I suppose you should get out of bed and feel that soft rug under your feet in the morning, and you don't get that experience. Yeah, no, it definitely makes a difference. It transforms the room. Thank you for joining us on Style Stories with Easy Living Interiors. You can hear all the news, including links to more information, in the description area of this podcast.
Please share our show with a friend who might enjoy it. Simply search Style Stories with Easy Living Interiors on Apple, Spotify or YouTube. This podcast is produced by justpod.io for Easy Living Interiors.